Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another installation of our Way Forward Workshop Leader Lunch Break. We are fortunate today to have a trio of phenomenal female leaders in housing in Cleveland. Let me share a little bit about each of them with you. Dorivette Nolan is the Director of Policy, Planning, and Housing Mobility at the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority. When she took the job, it was fresh out of college and it was just a job while she looked for something better. She never thought working at CMHA would become a passion. Well, 24 years later, it truly is a passion. Not 24, 20. 20. It'll soon be 24. 20 years later, it is still a passion. She leads the team that keeps the CMHA programs in line with federal housing policy. She creates internal policies and used to administer the agency's after-school learning programs. She's heavily involved in the community in the New Village Corporation, the Campus District, NOACA, and she has been recognized by Cranes as a 40 under 40. Aleksandra Tyler is the Mobility and Landlord Outreach Coordinator, and she has served at CMHA for just under a year. She came to them from Case Western Reserve University, where part of her work included co-leading a multidisciplinary team researching eviction through the Justice Center in Cleveland. She serves on the board of the Welcome House and volunteers extensively throughout the community. And like Rachel, she holds a degree in social work from Ohio University, and she holds 2 master's degrees from Case Western Reserve University's Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences. And last but never ever least, Carla Haren. Carla is the Executive Administrative Officer and the Board Liaison, and she is truly dedicated to moving CMHA as well as our greater Cleveland community forward. She has 13 years of service to the residents of CMHA, of which there are 55,000. She, in the opinion of many of us at the Leadership Center, is the person who makes things happen. She is the executive special assistant to CEO Jeff Patterson. She coordinates monthly meetings of the Board of Commissioners. She serves as liaison to the Progressive Action Council, which is the resident leadership organization, and she created the on-site leadership program, Cornerstone of Success, the LEAP program for CMHA employees so that they can better serve their clients and residents. She mentors in True to You, serves at the Cleveland Kids Book Bank, and is a proud alumna of Cleveland Bridge Builders, the Civic Leadership Institute, and the Advanced Leadership Institute. With that, leaders, I turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, everyone, and a special thank you to our friends at the Cleveland Leadership Center, Marianne, Rachel, and Nora. Thank you so much for allowing CMHA the opportunity to host this session today. A little bit of background, my name is Carla Haren, as Marianne stated, and CMHA is a proud supporter of the Cleveland Leadership Center. As she mentioned, I've done several of their programs. I'm a proud graduate of the Cleveland Bridge Builders class of 2016, the Civic Leadership Institute class of 2019, and most recently, I participated in the Advanced Leadership Institute, which just graduated in June of 2021. For our Advanced Leadership Institute project, our class was tasked with conducting various common ground conversations. My group focused on the conversation of housing. And from that conversation, we kind of re-imaged what took place back in May, and we redesigned our presentation to come forward with today's session about CMHA, our impact in the community, and this exciting new housing mobility program that CMHA has. At this point, I will mute my mic and I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, Dorivette Nolan and Aleksandra Tyler, to talk to you more about the housing mobility program.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. Again, my name is Dorivette Nolan. I'm very well done introduction, by the way. You totally did your homework and knew so much about me. I was like, oh my, okay. You shared more than I would have probably shared, but I'm all right with that. I do a lot for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, specifically centered around our special purpose vouchers. So that's how we got into the field of housing mobility. I think at the Housing Authority, we've been thinking about our voucher program and how we could move on to the next step of the voucher program beyond the just regular housing choice voucher engagement. So that's where I think mobility kind of comes in. So you know about me, and we introduced Alex. Alex has been a godsend to CMHA, to me personally, as the mobility and landlord outreach coordinator. She has so jumped into this role and taken on a lot of the work on developing our response to the application and all sorts of other forms that we've done for landlord outreach. So next slide, please, Alex. Just to give you a little bit of background on CMHA, the entity, our mission is to create safe, affordable, quality housing opportunities and improve the quality of life for the communities we serve. We are the first chartered housing authority in the country. No matter what other PHAs tell you, San Antonio's got a little bit of thing going on. Don't worry about them. We are the 7th largest housing authority in the country. We have just over 10,500 or so affordable housing units with our affordable programs, RAD and public housing. And we also have about 15,500 housing choice vouchers, which are encompassed with the regular tenant-based vouchers, as well as special purpose vouchers, such as family unification and VASH. Together with those programs, we serve over 55,000 people in Cuyahoga County. We are in the national trades. We do participate in all of the different housing authority programs and groups and collaborations, such as the Council for Large Public Housing Authorities and NARO, and we do get awarded by them. Next slide, please. A little bit of a background on Housing Choice Voucher. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is funded by HUD. It is the largest nationwide low-income rental assistance program in the country. The goal is to provide, obviously, rental assistance to low-income households within the private market. Users of this are obviously low-income families, elderly persons, and persons with disabilities, as well as a targeted group of veterans under VASH. The Housing Choice Voucher Program is a public-private partnership. So next slide, please, Alex. The way it works is that families are determined eligible on the voucher program. They can apply through different mechanisms. We currently have an open waiting list for our tenant-based voucher program, which means that families can apply at any time on our website. And then as funding is made available and we need to issue vouchers, we will do a lottery to randomly select people who have applied for the program to determine their eligibility and give them a voucher. Once families are determined eligible for the program, they go out into the private rental market to lease up in a unit that is owned by a landlord anywhere within Cuyahoga County, which is our jurisdiction. Additionally, Housing Choice Voucher participants have the ability to what we call port their voucher, which means that they move with their voucher and their assistance from the Cuyahoga County jurisdiction to the jurisdiction of another housing authority. So technically your voucher is good nationwide. CMHA pays landlords directly every month. The family pays the landlord 30% of their adjusted monthly income as determined by the housing authority. So we do a little bit of gathering information from them and we calculate the amount of rent that they will pay directly to the landlord. And then to the landlord, we pay the difference. So again, there goes that private-public partnership. Without private landlords, the Housing Choice Voucher Program does not work. So that leads us into the conversation about mobility. What is it? How does it work? I think Alex is going to do a great job of giving you a little bit more background on that.
Thank you, Director Nolan. We will first be discussing the trends and research that help set the stage for the mobility demonstration we will be discussing today. So the defining feature of the American dream is upward mobility, the aspiration that your children would earn more than you. The fraction of children earning more than their parents fell from 90% for children born in 1940 to 50% today. So the understanding that the American dream of economic mobility has dimmed became the starting point for Dr. Raj Chetty's research on neighborhoods and childhood outcomes. His work directly influenced the development of the mobility demonstration that we will be discussing today. This map demonstrates the chances of rising out of poverty to the top of the income distribution where children grew up. So if you started from a community at the bottom 5th percentile of household income, your chances of reaching the top 5th are incredibly low, lower than 10% in some communities. And in Cleveland, the odds of reaching the top, starting from the bottom, are 5.1%. So as you can see from this map, the lighter colors on the map are areas where there are more upward mobility, and the darker are areas where there is less upward mobility. So as the map demonstrates, children's prospects for upward mobility vary across neighborhoods. So this begs the question, which neighborhoods in America offer children the best chance to rise out of poverty? Dr. Chetty's research found that high upward mobility areas have some consistent qualities. Those areas have less residential segregation, less income inequality, better primary schools. For example, these areas have higher test scores, lower dropout rates, and smaller class sizes. Greater social capital as measured by engagement in the community and religious organizations and voter turnout, and greater family stability. So these high upward mobility areas are often referred to as opportunity areas. And you're going to be hearing the phrase opportunity areas a lot today. So what happens when families use vouchers to move to opportunity areas? Research on pilot mobility programs that used a combination of housing vouchers and mobility counseling services found that moves to lower poverty areas positively impacted both adults and children. Children who moved to lower poverty areas before the age of 13 earned 31% more as adults than those who didn't, were more likely to attend college, had lower rates of incarceration, had lower teen birth rates, and were less likely to become single parents. The results were cumulative. So the longer that the children lived in the neighborhoods, that is, the younger they were when they moved, the larger their gains were as adults. Adults who moved to lower poverty neighborhoods also had some positive, there were also positive effects on them. Adults reported 33% fewer instances of major depression and had lower rates of extreme obesity and diabetes. So the remarkable outcomes for children show that mobility programming could be a way to break the cycle of generational poverty. So this is an infographic showing some of the benefits of moving to lower poverty areas. Children who move to lower poverty areas have increased lifetime earnings amounting to $302,000. So with all these benefits associated with moving to these areas, why don't low-income families move to opportunity? While there may be some families who choose to stay in their neighborhood in order to remain close to their current job, to their family, or childcare, for example, researchers have found that many families do want to move to opportunity areas, but face many barriers in doing so. So some of these barriers include lack of information, frictions in the search process, such as lack of credit or poor credit, and reluctance among landlords to rent to them. So how do we help these families get to opportunity areas? It will take a combination of vouchers and services to address those barriers, which brings us to the Housing Choice Voucher Mobility Demonstration. So mobility has bipartisan support, which suggests that policymakers and politicians recognize the growing body of evidence that moving to low poverty areas improve a child's long-term chances of success and reduces intergenerational poverty. A bipartisan selling point of mobility is that the increased lifetime earnings of children who move to low poverty opportunity areas could generate sufficient enough tax revenue to offset the cost of providing mobility programming. So, which means that this program could pay for itself. The mobility demonstration was passed in Congress with bipartisan support. A total of $50 million was made available for mobility demonstration vouchers and for providing mobility related services. And building upon recent research on mobility programs, the demonstration theorizes that the combination of mobility services and voucher funding will result in successful moves and staying power in opportunity areas. This was a competitive application process, and 25 public housing authorities submitted an application, and CMHA was one of 9 that was selected for the demonstration. So this is a bit of an overview on the demonstration as a whole. The mobility demonstration is a 6-year project with 2 primary goals. 1, to assist families with vouchers to access communities of opportunity, and 2, to learn what helps families access and stay in areas of opportunity. Families with at least 1 child aged 13 and under that live in census tracts with a family poverty rate of 30% or higher will be eligible to participate. An independent research team will implement a randomized controlled trial to determine what services are most effective in helping families move to opportunity areas. And families that agree to participate will be randomly assigned to one of 3 groups. There will be 2 treatment groups with varying levels of mobility services and a control group, which will receive housing choice voucher business as usual services already offered by CMHA to all housing choice voucher applicants and participants. CMHA has partnered with the Fair Housing Center for Rights and Research, a local nonprofit organization, to implement the mobility demonstration. CMHA and the Fair Housing Center will recruit and enroll participants and recruit landlords with units in high opportunity areas. And the Fair Housing Center will be providing the mobility related services, and we'll be discussing the specifics of those in a minute. And CMHA will be responsible for voucher administration. So what makes a zip code a high opportunity area? Another way to frame this question is, what conditions and resources do children need to grow into healthy and productive adults? The census tracts highlighted in green here meet HUD's minimum criterion of a opportunity area, which is census tracts with family poverty rates of less than 20%. CMHA and the Fair Housing Center used a tool called the Child Opportunity Index to more narrowly designate tracts as opportunity areas. So the Opportunity Index both defines and measures child opportunity, and indicators or measures of opportunity include availability of early childhood education, high quality schools, low exposure to toxins such as lead, and access to green spaces, healthy food, and social and economic resources. We identified 133 census tracts throughout Cuyahoga County as opportunity areas. So the areas highlighted in green here are our proposed opportunity areas. And these areas include Bay Village, Beechwood, Berea, Chagrin Falls, Mayfield, North Royalton, Parma, Rocky River, Shaker Heights, Solon, South Euclid, Strongsville, University Heights, Westlake, and more. And you can see that there are parts of areas that are designated as opportunity areas. So HUD identified mobility services that are likely to be successful in helping families move to opportunity areas. Services for the mobility demonstration will fall into 5 categories and will be offered at different points in time throughout the process. Due to the research component of the demonstration, HUD is requiring that all participating public housing authorities agree to the same set of mobility services, and those services have not yet been finalized. The services on this slide are what we proposed to HUD in our initial application. So for pre-move services could include something like a mobility counseling to address identified barriers. This could include pulling and reviewing credit reports and discussing ways to improve credit when necessary. Housing search assistance could include support in identifying and touring units. Family financial assistance could cover the cost of application fees, security deposits, or moving costs. And landlord recruitment and support could include targeted outreach to landlords and various financial incentives such as signing bonuses and damage mitigation funds. Post-move services could include connecting families to resources and amenities and regular check-ins with the family to see how their move to the opportunity area is going. These 15 steps represent the process for an average housing choice voucher applicant. And on this slide, this shows the process for participating families in the mobility demonstration. The yellow boxes indicate where mobility interventions would take place. For example, on the very last yellow box, this might be a place where landlord incentives were offered, such as damage mitigation funds. So we are still in the pilot year of our program. Our next steps will be working with HUD to finalize the mobility related services that will be provided throughout the demonstration and the opportunity areas we will target. Because landlord participation is so crucial in this in the housing choice voucher program in general, and especially in this mobility program, we are advocating for maximized landlord incentives. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, thank you both so much. We are going to move to our Q&A now. So for those on the call, I ask that if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. Let's start by talking about some of the actions you might take to help families get connected and integrated to their new neighborhood.
Take that. As part of the mobility demonstration, we might provide families, connect them with like the local school district and provide opportunities to do tours. We could also provide them connections to other services that are available within the community that they're looking to move to. So to ensure that they have that sense of community, whether that be there'll be an assessment of the family. So if the family needs early childhood education, or they're looking to get a job close to a unit or within that area, they want to be close by, that kind of thing. So we'll do the assessment to make sure that the family has the supports and help connect them to those supports.
And as you looked at this first round, how many families were considered?
We haven't started the program yet. We were just awarded the funds in May. We just found out that we did win the application. So we're in the first year, which is like the planning phase. We were awarded 74 specific mobility demonstration vouchers, but we also pledged at least 74 of our turnover vouchers, and anticipate that we'll have to enroll at least 1,000 families into the program to hit the metrics of actually moving 74 families.
Great, thank you. And just as a note to everyone on the call, if there were issues with the chat, it should be back up and running. So feel free to put your questions in the chat. So when you think about housing choice in the voucher program, kind of in general, often there can be some stigma that comes with housing vouchers. How do you work to advocate against that stigma?
I would say that's an ongoing process. We do that daily, monthly, yearly. We have several different newsletters that we try to put out into the community. We have a lot of information that's available on our website. Additionally, we participate in groups such as the Fair Housing Working Group that was organized by our friends at Enterprise to collectively come together with other folks involved in housing and other community partners to really effectively think about housing and fair housing issues within Cuyahoga County. We also have what we call a landlord briefing, but Alex is working on revamping all of that to put together like a real intensive landlord recruitment and retainment plan. So you'll see that coming out soon, just so we can put out more information about what the Housing Choice Voucher Program really is and how it works. There's a lot of assumptions, I would say, made about the program and about people that are on the program that we're just working to kind of shed light on the reality of the program, not just what you thought you knew.
So as you're looking ahead to this first year and thinking about the supports that need to be in place and how you make this program come together, imagining that collaboration is going to be a key piece. So what are some of those collaborations that you've started to create, and what additional collaborations are you looking to build?
I think the number one piece is our partnership with the Fair Housing Center to provide the supports to the families, but also we'll be looking to the local school districts and the different municipalities that we've identified as opportunity areas, just to maybe do a quick FAQ on the voucher program, you know, to get everyone aware and on the same page, and just have a nice opportunity to meet everyone that's involved in the program and what kind of our objective is.
So how are you working with leadership in those opportunity zone municipalities to recruit landlords?
We haven't started yet, but the plan is to, so these are our thoughts, right? It's not real yet, but the plan is a lot of the municipalities have like a rental registration requirement. So our initial thoughts are if we could talk to the leadership of those communities, ask if we can share information, not for them to give us like, who are your landlords and what is their contact info, but instead, could we share information with this group? Do you have a monthly or quarterly meeting with this group that we could maybe attend to provide educational information to the group, and try to approach it that way rather than a recruitment type at first, you know, just to let you know about us, and then we'll ask you to participate.
So again, in thinking ahead of laying the groundwork for families moving into these opportunity zones, many of those school systems are made up of families of higher socioeconomic status and means. And so the families that are moving in may have a challenge affording some of those fees. How might you begin to work with the families and the school systems to help alleviate some of those stressors?
So we will definitely connect with the affected school districts to see what funds they have available to help families that are of lower socioeconomic status, but also in the mobility program, there is some funding made available. We are not sure exactly what the supports will be, but to provide those kind of supports to families so they can, one of the questions that can participate, I'm sorry, I should finish that thought. One of the questions that was brought up as part of these, HUD is providing technical assistance to all of the mobility grantees. So we're all kind of like talking on a weekly basis about what the program is and what supports we can provide. And something that was brought up on one of our last calls was, well, what about pay to play fees. There's some school districts that, in order to be in extracurricular activities, there is a fee involved. How will families deal with that? So we are together like considering and molding what this program will be like. So that is on our radar.
Kind of building on that as things that you have on your radar and are thinking through, what might you be doing to address potential racial profiling by police and neighbors in these opportunity zones, which can be traumatic and dangerous for the families that are moving in? How might there be training for those who will be for the landlords and those working with the families?
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece for our community in general. Cuyahoga County, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, but we're highly segregated city and county in general. I think providing the supports directly to families to understand and support them in what they're experiencing. Part of our idea to provide those like post-move supports is if we could provide families with like a peer group or connect them to a family that's in the community, but willing to be like their buddy, somebody who's already has kids in the school district or things like that. And as part of our, just like landlord outreach and education of the municipalities, we hope that we can help them in those regards. But I think that overall is a huge barrier in Cuyahoga County in general.
So do you anticipate landlords being more interested in accepting housing choice vouchers due to the fact that tenants are supported and guided by CMHA? This could be viewed as potentially a less risk to landlords.
I think you're right. I think that's part of HUD's goals in the housing choice in the demonstration overall, to see how this helps landlord participation in the program in general. Lately, in the past few years, HUD has created a landlord task force and landlord resources. They have a new webpage. I think nationwide, we're recognizing that landlord recruitment and retainment is crucial to the working of that public-private partnership. And for several years now, I think housing authorities have noticed that participants are having a harder time locating units with landlords that are willing to participate. But now it's also on HUD's radar. So nationwide, they're trying to provide housing authorities with these supports to attract landlords, but maybe through this demonstration, they'll see that maybe the voucher program in and of itself needs a slight tweak to provide these kind of supports for families to actually be successful for the voucher. It's not just giving them a voucher and go anymore. You have to help them.
So, and we had a question come in from a landlord. So as a landlord in an opportunity area currently leased through the CMHA program, how does she ensure that her property and tenant relationship is included in this program?
So this mobility demonstration vouchers are for new participants. We will be recruiting some current participants, but it will be folks that are currently in a low census tract, right? But engagement to landlords is still a high priority for us. And that's why we have Aleksandra as our landlord and mobility outreach coordinator. So at any time, Alex's role is to really be that voice for the landlord. So at any time, if a landlord is having either an issue with the participant or has questions, or overall like the program just doesn't seem to be working, you just have a general question, you could reach out to Alex, and she's that one-on-one conversation with you. It's not the big CMHA, you can just talk to Alex.
So Alex, and as a follow-up to that, as you look ahead to the role that you're going to have in this project, what excites you most? What are you most looking forward to as this kicks off?
I have really enjoyed getting to know our current landlords. So I'm very excited about recruiting more landlords, because our tenants are really struggling to find units. And I think that this program can work for tenants and landlords and benefit them both. So I'm really excited about that. And I am also really excited about what the research has shown. It's remarkable, the impact on children long-term, and the fact that we could be impacting children here in Cuyahoga County in our community is amazing. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing this all play out and seeing families benefit from moving to opportunity areas.
Oh, are we frozen?
Yeah, I think Rachel may have frozen. I will jump in here. I know she was having some internet issues with the weather. So next question is, some current residents are seeking emergency relocation due to threats to their and their children's personal safety. Is there any flexibility so those families can be included in the program?
Currently, the way the mobility demonstration is set up is so that HUD can replicate this program nationwide. So I think we're pretty much set in what the requirements are going to be. And since it was funded through appropriations, there is that statute that kind of governs how mobility demonstration vouchers will work. But as a housing authority, we do have some waiting lists that are available to folks that need housing within Cuyahoga County and beyond. Anyone can apply for our waiting list, and they're available on our website at cmha.net. And we do have preferences for folks that are either homeless or in a domestic violence type of situation where they might be fleeing and need to leave for their safety.
Good to know. So 25 cities applied for these vouchers. 9 were selected. And don't be humble. Why do you think CMHA was selected?
I honestly think it was a great collaboration. We have the Fair Housing Center. We have obviously CMHA, with Cuyahoga County having those areas of opportunity. Like when you look at the map that Alex presented, there are a large amount of opportunity areas within Cuyahoga County that we can access that we don't currently have access to, as well as we worked with a consultant group called Mobility Works to put together our application to really provide the data and information necessary so that HUD would see that not only does CMHA have the capacity to administer a mobility program, we also have the partnership with the Fair Housing Center to provide the counseling, as well as the capital in the Cuyahoga County at large to say that there are units that these families could move to that we just can't access.
Yeah. So Alex and Carla, I see you nodding in agreement. Is there anything you would add to that?
I just want to add that CMHA, we have a lot going on. In addition to this exciting housing mobility demonstration, we were also recently awarded $35 million to redevelop the Woodhill area, which is like, if you're coming from the east side going down Buckeye, you see the Woodhill development on the right-hand side. And there's so much redevelopment being invested in that community. You have a major university circle, literally like a stone throw away from the property, with the opportunity corridor that's being built. There's so much opportunity for redevelopment for our residents, and they are so deserving of it. One thing that I want to note, the working at CMHA, is it really is like a service organization. We are committed to serving our residents, serving the landlords, serving our community. And I saw one person ask in the chat, how can we like help or whatever? And one thing basically is just be a good neighbor. We hosted our Common Ground conversation that was focused on housing. We talked about housing and things we liked in our communities, things we didn't like in our community. But basically it all comes down to being a good person, being a good neighbor, like attending your either CDC or council meetings, advocating for those people that may need a little bit more assistance. And I think CMHA will definitely be on the rise with all of that.
Alex, what would you add? Go ahead.
Oh, and I echo what Carla just said. Being a good neighbor is so important. No matter what individual moves into your neighborhood, giving them a nice welcome, telling them about great places to visit around town. That could mean so much to anybody, regardless of if they have a voucher or not.
Yeah. So in addition to welcoming, we have a question that talks about the specific talents and skill sets on this call and in all of our networks. So you have services that are there to help out your families with housing. What about, is there anything to help them with their financial planning and guidance, credit repair and job opportunities, business financial advisors? Do you have these folks at the ready, or is this something that you can recruit from the community where people here could jump in and help out?
We're definitely going to be recruiting from the community. I think our partners at the Fair Housing Center have some ideas in mind of who they will be reaching out to, but it's definitely going to be a community effort to be able to serve these families and provide them the supports that they really need to be successful.
Okay. So, and with that, how do people stay informed about what's going on? Is there a place on your website? You have a newsletter. How do they keep updated on all the happenings so that when it's time for them to raise their hand and jump in, they can do that?
So CMHA, we have an active social media. We're on everything: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. You can go on our website and sign up to be receiving our monthly newsletters. I don't know if they're monthly, actually. They might be quarterly, but newsletters that go out to the community. Don't hesitate. We get calls all the time from people wondering what's going on. And we are a service that's for everybody in Cuyahoga County. So we're happy to assist.
And just to add a little bit to what Carla mentioned, we will be developing a website for our mobility program. So I'm sure there'll be a link to it, and we'll do like a blast when we have it available, but just to give you all of the insights and information that you might need if you're curious about mobility in Cuyahoga County.
Oh, thanks very much. So one last question. The other 8 cities that were awarded these vouchers, is there an opportunity to collaborate with them so you can make sure that you're all embracing best practices for success?
Yes, we have weekly calls. So they put us all together, whether we want to be or not. Since it's a demonstration with a research component, we have to make sure that we're all kind of doing the same thing. So we have these weekly calls where we kind of talk about, like, they're moving us slowly throughout the whole process. So the first step was just like going over the application and making sure you know what you applied for and you accepted. And then now we're moving on to developing these comprehensive mobility services, what it would like, what partnerships do you need? So we're having all of these conversations together with HUD technical assistance.
That's great. So there's already been a call out for all of you to come back in a year and share the progress. And the best way I can end is to read a comment from the chat. This is going to be an awesome opportunity to change lives and improve the diversity of our neighborhoods. It is a pleasure to be a part of this project. I applaud your efforts. And just looking at the faces and smiles and nods and wanting to support you in this call, that is so true. Thank you for your dedication, for your willingness to innovate and create. And we really look forward to this being a highly successful model effort to change housing and to change the face of poverty in Cleveland. Give our children better lives going forward. So thank you for all that the 3 of you and everybody at CMHA do.